Acrylic jewelry, should you wear it? Is it safe? A basic guide to acrylic body piercing jewelry coming up next, and Body Piercing Basics, episode number 24. Those that are new to the channel, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I'm the owner and operator of the Axiom Body Piercing Studio located in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So, I am speaking to you at a level of expertise. I'm not just some kid in his basement talking about jewelry. This came up because I just recently posted a video called Tongue Piercings, Pros and Cons by a Piercer, where I went into depth about that piercing and mentioned acrylic balls as an option for wearing in your mouth. One of my viewers of that video had made a comment. His name's, or sure, her name's Cubert Humberdale, I believe is how it's pronounced. And I don't know if that's their real name either. Asking to do a video just on acrylics, and in reference to a video that JC Potts had also posted a number of years ago about body piercing jewelry, man-made materials in body piercing jewelry, plastics, acrylics, etc. It's a very interesting video. If you haven't watched it, I would suggest doing so. I'll try to put up a card and I'll also link it in the description if you have not seen that already. As far as JC Potts, there's a lot of controversy around the guy right now. The thing I will say is I respect him in his expertise as a piercer, in his knowledge as a piercer. Anything beyond that, I don't know him personally. I don't know what this real story is, and I'm going to leave that alone. Now, let's move on to acrylic. One of the things he does say in that is that it's carcinogenic in that it can cause cancer for long-term wear. The idea being that as the acrylic heats up, because it's in contact with your skin, it leaks out materials that can lead to cancer. I have done fairly extensive research over the last couple of years when I had time, have not found any documentation one way or another that it causes it or doesn't cause it. The only thing I can possibly think of is that it may have had something to do with the scare that came out a few years ago about getting acrylic nails causing cancer. I think the part that most people missed with that is it had more to do with the fact that they were putting their hands under UV light for from 5 to sometimes 20 minutes to dry that acrylic. And it was the UV rays coming in contact with the tissue that was causing skin cancer. Not the acrylic. Not the acrylic. So we have that understood. However, when it comes to acrylic, there are various different levels of quality, just like any material. I generally only suggest dental acrylic. It's the same thing that's used on dentures and other dental devices. It's much harder. It is FDA approved for internal use. It's going to last somewhat hold up pretty well inside the mouth. The problem with that is a lot of the acrylic that's out there is not dental acrylic, and you have absolutely no idea what it is actually made out of. It's kind of a buyer's beware market. It could be high-grade acrylic. It could be, who knows. It flooded the market back in the late 90s, and it seemed to happen at the same time that a lot of these cheaper manufacturers, especially from third world countries, started producing jewelry and flooded the market with it. A lot of it was kind of novelty jewelry, kind of low-end, fancy stuff with lots of things hanging off of it and lots of gems and etc. So it got a bad reputation, I think, in part because of that, because most of that jewelry was junk. No way around it. So when we're talking about applications that do work for acrylic jewelry, there's kind of only two that I would even remotely suggest. The first one being in the tongue. A tongue piercing, because your ball and jewelry is constantly in contact with teeth and gum, and there's always that possibility of biting down on the barbell. The fact is that the dental acrylic is going to give before your teeth do, and there's some advantage to that. Is it the best thing to have in your mouth? Does the grinding and deterioration of that ball and then swallowing those materials good for you? Probably not. However, if your teeth are more important than there's such a small amount that you would actually be ingesting, it's very difficult to say whether or not it would be harmful. The thing with it is, if you are going to go that route, is make sure that you're getting internally threaded ends. And for those that don't know what internally threaded ends are, they are a ball that has a piece of threading that comes out of it that's made out of metal that then threads into a metal post, opposed to externally threaded where the threading is on the post itself and then you have this plastic ball that screws onto it. They strip out. External threaded is not going to last a long period of time. The other thing you want to consider is that they do, no matter what quality you get, they deteriorate in the mouth. No way around it. You do not want to buy that piece of jewelry and leave it in year after year after year. You are going to need to replace those balls on a regular basis. As soon as they start to become rough in texture or get scratches or etc. on it, because they are prone to that. So it is not one of those put it in and forget about it situations. You need to change it, in some cases once a month or even every other month for the rest of the period of time that you have that piercing. The other problem is as I said, is when you bite down on it, you can break off chips and pieces and then swallow it, and it can cause a lot of damage if it is large enough pieces. So you really want to be careful and make sure you change those on a regular basis. Now, whether or not the warmth in your mouth and that constant contact and that constant temperature is going to leak out carcinogens, don't know. Things you should also avoid is anything that glows in the dark. That is going to cause cancer. It is a carcinogen. The stuff that the plastics that you apply light to and then it lights up on its own. Black light related or reactive materials, probably not so much so, but I'm still a little leery of it. And the fact that I have yet to see a reputable manufacturer make black light acrylic, chances are is that stuff is not dental acrylic. It is not FDA approved. It's not supposed to be in your mouth or your body. So stay away from that stuff. Another and better option, if you're really concerned about doing damage to your teeth, is to get gold ends. I know it's expensive. It is not cheap. There's no way around it. But the reality is the gold is usually soft enough that it's going to give before your teeth do. If you think about it, if you've had the piercing for a while, you'll begin to realize you bite down on it very sporadically. Replacing a barbell end every couple of years is not going to break the bank, and it'll save your teeth. Now let's move on to the other application where I would suggest acrylic, and that is retainers. There's a misnomer about what retainers are. Retainers are jewelry that's specifically designed to be worn in a piercing for a short period of time due to medical reasons or other things that require you to remove the jewelry. It is not designed to be pierced with. It is not designed to be worn in the body for an extended period of time. They kind of come in a couple different shapes depending on what the retainer is for. Of course, there's nostril screws. There is the kind of staple-shaped or U-shaped ones for septum piercings. And then for other piercings, you have either a curved kind of post, a straight post, or a labrae style stud with a back on one side that's shaped like a disc and then outward. They're usually held in place or secured with O-rings, which is like a really small rubber band. How or when could these or should these be used? Generally, when you want to use these is in situations, especially medical situations, where you have to remove the jewelry. Now you may ask, well, if I have high-grade jewelry, and it's, implant grade, why do I need to remove it? This is the medical industry doing its job. It is trying to eliminate as many possible problems as they can and avoid risk. If you're going into any type of procedure, especially if they're putting you under anesthesia, putting you out, there's always a possibility that you could stop breathing or heart might stop, and they will have to take actions to get it started again, including applying electricity to you. Having a conductive metal against your skin when that happens could do a lot of damage and cause a whole truckload of issues. The other problem is with imaging. There's a lot going on about how MRIs and etc. could rip the jewelry out or overheats it and all this other stuff. There's very little proof any of that is possible. However, the problem is that it does often block what they're looking for. And kind of think of it this way. They're going through an imaging program. They're trying to look deep inside your body to find problems. And then there's a piece of jewelry sitting there right where they're trying to look. So removing the jewelry removes any obstacles or anything that may block it. And usually with acrylic, it just passes straight through it. So that's the main reasons for that. For x-rays, MRIs, CAT scans, etc. I personally have had all those with jewelry in and had no issue. The other issue is often there's no way for them to know as medical professionals whether or not you have a piece of jewelry that you bought at the mall that's made of God knows what, or if you have high-end implant grade material. So it's do listen to them. They're not being mean, they're not being prejudicial, they're just asking you to possibly eliminate another problem. However, a better option for retainers is glass. It comes in all those shapes I've already described. Pylex is the most commonly used. Comes in various different designs. You can get some really fancy color. The other thing with Pylex and glass is you can wear it in the body for a long period of time without all the issues you have with acrylic. It is a lot more durable. It's not going to break down. It's not going to get scratched. So if you're in a situation where you're constantly going to the hospital or you have constant medical procedures, they're trying to figure out what's wrong with you, and instead of taking jewelry in and out all the time and putting retainers in, consider investing in glass, because then you can just leave it in until that part of your life is over. The other thing with acrylic is it should never be used to pierce with. There's a couple different reasons for that. The first one being, well, three actually. The first one being you cannot sterilize, as in autoclave, acrylic. It will melt, break down. If there's any type of glues or epoxies used, it will basically melt it and it'll fall apart. The second reason is that it is not durable enough to withstand the amount of pressure that it's going to go through during the healing process. You know how there's this idea that maybe as you break down that acrylic, that it could leak out some toxic materials during the healing process. It is when that jewelry is under the most pressure. The last thing is that it's easily scratched and damaged. So you will have the sharp edges or burrs and etc. against that healing process or that healing tissue. It can do a lot of damage to the piercing while it's healing. The other thing that most people commonly try to use it for, it was used a lot, was for stretching piercings. I don't advise doing that either. It tends to have the same issues it has with piercing. It can cause a lot of problems. Also, it isn't really that much lighter than even titanium. There are tons of other options out there, including glass, that are going to be more durable and make that stretching process easier during insertion of new jewelry. Well, I hope that's a basic guide. I hope I covered pretty much everybody's questions on that one. A couple things. If you do, or you're one of those people that has come across some definite information that acrylic does cause cancer, please share that information with us. If you have links to studies or any type of documentation, I would love to read that and spread the word, because I'd be happy to appendix or put up a new version of this and go, don't do it. If you have any questions or you feel like I brought up something and didn't discuss it fully, feel free to leave a comment. And of course, if you have information, always leave a comment. I answer comments whenever I can. If you'd like to expand on something we talked about or discuss it further, please leave a comment. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, because that just makes everybody feel better. It means you like me. You really, really like me. If you enjoyed this, also subscribe. We post videos roughly 4 to 5 times a week, all of them covering body piercing and tattooing, and what's going on here at the Axiom in the Skin Kitchen. Hit that notification bell if you don't want to miss anything. Lastly, I hope all your piercings heal easily and without issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your piercing needs in the future.